How to write consistently. How do you write consistently? Why would you want to write consistently? And most importantly, what's stopping you from writing consistently? My name is Zuli Rain. I am a content creator and freelance blogger and cat mom, and I make videos that are all about how to grow your blogging empire and make a living by writing about what you actually love. Let's have a quick pause for a word from today's sponsors. This video is sponsored by Shortform. Shortform is a book summary and book guide platform online. They have over 1,000 books to choose from in all different kinds of topics, from entrepreneurship to self-help to even fiction. Newsletter readers will know that a recent book I read using Shortform was called The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. He reckons that talent is very much developed and that you can grow talent by focusing on building your myelin strands. Myelin is the fatty fiber that makes connections in your brain go faster. You can do this, I learned, by doing meaningful practice. Shortform drops new books and guides every single week, and subscribed members can actually vote on which ones they want to see next. To get your free 5-day trial, go to shortform.com/Zuli. You'll also get an extra 20% off. Thanks for watching. Now back to the video. Today's video is all about how to write consistently. Consistency here means writing on a regular basis. It means writing even when you don't really feel like writing. The benefits of consistency, I think most people know them, but I'll enumerate them here just in case. You tend to write more if you're writing on a schedule and not, like as and when the muse hits you. You can build a habit that you can rely on, and rather than becoming a chore, writing becomes this thing that you know that you can do every single day, like brushing your teeth. And you feel good when you do it, and you feel like it's missing when you don't do it. And finally, you can use this consistent writing to finish projects. People who want to write a book, people who want to write 100 blog posts, it's very hard to do that inconsistently. It's much easier to do that if you're like, hey, I'm gonna do this every single week, every single day, every single month, whatever, and that's my plan. The obstacles are probably not what you think. There's this big misconception that the obstacle to writing consistently is you don't have the motivation, or you're too lazy, or you're just not a writer. And those are hardly ever the case, okay? I'm sure there are some people for whom those are true, but if you're watching this video and you're looking up how to write more consistently, that probably isn't you. The obstacles that tend to be more of an issue are when you're tired, when for whatever reason you lack motivation, when you're burnt out, when you doubt yourself. Those are the things that stop you from writing consistently. Those are the things that stop you from writing consistently, not like you're lazy. Now let's get into how to actually write consistently. How do you do that? How do you build a consistent writing habit? The very first step is to determine what consistency means to you. We defined consistency earlier in the video as writing on a regular basis, even when you don't feel like it. There's a lot more wiggle room in that. Does consistency to you mean that you're writing every day? Does it mean you're writing 200 words a week? You can define that now, and that'll be your goal. And that's you writing consistently. It's a definition that you can invent for yourself. The next step is to ask yourself, why do you want to write consistently? Is it so that you can call yourself a writer? Is it so you can finally finish a big, exciting writing project that you've been working on? Do you want to accomplish a professional goal, like having a portfolio? What's the why? What's the reason that's driving you? Getting clear on this is so important. Like, for example, for me, I wanted to learn how to write more consistently for 2 reasons. I wanted to write my fiction book, my novel, and I also wanted to build my blog, and it was really hard to do that when I was only doing it as and when I felt inspired. So now you know what your goal is, you know why you want to achieve your goal, and now we need to talk about why you've been struggling to write consistently. In my video about writing more, I said that writing itself is a mechanical thing, right? Like you just type on a keyboard. If you're not writing consistently, usually it's a mental block, something internal, not something from the difficulties of writing or anything like that. So here are a couple of the common obstacles for writing more and the typical solutions I recommend. If it's not any of these, then you'll need to probably do some more internal digging to figure out what's stopping you and how you're going to get around that specific block. Number 1. Some people are bored. You sit down and you're like, oh, I've already said everything there is to say about side hustles. Why do I have to write more? That's a really big obstacle to consistency, is boredom. I won't go into a whole rant right now, but that's because I believe that niching is a mistake. When we speak to friends or family, they don't have like a single thing that they talk about. They don't have a one overreaching defining feature. We all have a mix, a variety of interests, and that's what makes us really cool and interesting people to talk to. If you're really bored with what you're writing about, that can be a really huge obstacle to writing consistently. And the solution is pretty simple. Try writing about something else. You don't have to publish it on your blog if you're really worried about like maintaining your theme, but just try something or put it under a pen name or use a platform like Medium to just post something once that you don't have to worry about a niche. I really highly recommend it. It's very, very freeing. Number 2, maybe you're too tired to write consistently. You might be too tired to write consistently. We'll circle back to that. But before you give up entirely, what I would recommend doing is setting a smaller goal. Remember when we set our goals for writing consistently? You might have said that you wanted to write 200 words a day, or maybe that you wanted to write for half an hour every single day. Review that goal. You might be too tired to do that. I know everybody's been very busy and there's still the pandemic on, and it all adds up and it all weighs on you. Try setting a smaller goal and see if you can meet that consistently. You might be burned out. This is similar to boredom and it has a lot of the same symptoms, but it's a different cause. You're burned out if you're overworking, and I see this most often in people who are trying to grow their blog as a side hustle. You work, your 9 to 5 or your 8 to 6, or maybe you're working nights as a nurse, and then you sit down and you're like, oh, why can't I force myself to write? If I were a stronger person, I could do that. No, you're burnt out, you're tired, you're exhausted. You don't have the mental energy or the internal creativity to write consistently right now. If you're burned out and you really still want to write consistently, what I would recommend doing is trying something that isn't work. It's not tied to money. It's going to be really hard to write consistently if you're already burned out and then you're thinking of writing as another job to do. You're going to struggle. It's going to be really hard to do that. Turn writing into something fun, turn it into an outlet, a leisure activity, and try that. For example, I use writing in my fiction novel as a stress relief sometimes because it's nice. I don't mean my good fiction novel that I'm actually like working hard on. I mean just like some crap, some like fan fiction of a recent book I've read and loved recently. Something that's like so low pressure, just something to have ticking over in the background. Something that has nothing to do with work. That's the cure to writing consistently if you're already feeling a little burnt out. You might be struggling with self-doubt. Now, this happens to a lot of like early stage bloggers. You start to write, you start to maybe get some traction, you start to feel locked into a niche, you start to feel locked into like competing with yourself and competing with your peers. And then you sit down and you're like, what's even the point of writing? Why am I even bothering to try? I just don't have it in me. I'm never going to have it in me. I give up. That's obviously a very big blocker to consistent writing. If that's you, if you feel like that's you, what I recommend is trying something in a totally different niche, something you've never written in before, something brand new to you. This is going to help you free yourself of the comparison. You can't compare yourself to your past work because you've never written in that before. And even if you do compare yourself to others in that niche, you don't have this like weight of expectations. Like you can always say to yourself, well, this is the first time I've written about cat food. Of course, it's not going to be my best work. That's true of your original niche. I want that to be clear, but it's much easier to have this kind of mental expectation of, well, lower. You don't have to be perfect on something that's a brand new topic. And that's one really good sort of hack to writing consistently, is just writing about something that is outside of your usual circle of writing topics. Finally, you might genuinely have a lack of ideas, blank page syndrome. You look and you're like, well, God, there's nothing for me to write about. What on earth do I have going on today? I really don't believe that anybody in the world has a lack of ideas. I think they have a lack of the ability to recognize the ideas that they're having in their head right now. And this might be you if this is your problem. What I recommend doing if you want to write consistently, but you're continually stumbling into a lack of thoughts or ideas, look for something that makes you angry. So I borrowed this actually from Facebook. They find that they get better engagement when they promote stuff to you that makes you mad. And why can't we use that for our own consistent writing habits as well? Look for something that makes you angry, or if you want to be a little bit more positive, totally fair, look for something that makes you joyful, something that makes you curious, something that fills you with passion and interest and excitement. Again, this doesn't have to be in your niche. If you're struggling to write consistently, don't add another struggle on top of that. Just look for something that's like fun and exciting to write about and rely on that. Write about that. Nobody can write consistently every single day for the rest of their lives. You're gonna have a baby. Your partner's gonna get into an accident. You're gonna accidentally drink too much and wake up with a hangover. Life happens. My point is, You want to set yourself up for success anticipating this kind of failure. Number one, write as much as you can when you feel fired up. So for example, if you've just read about an issue that's made you really passionate, write your whole blog post, or write, the word count or the time count that you wanted to hit. And then while you're still feeling that passion and energy, write as many ideas as you can. Or you can also write outlines, and that's going to make it much easier for you to hit the ground running and complete your consistency goal on a day when you're not feeling so inspired or energetic. I also recommend not missing more than one day. If you miss one day, you miss one day. If you miss 2 days, that's a habit of missing consistent writing goals. It's much, much harder to get on that bandwagon once you've missed 2 days and it's already like, oh, well, what's even the point of getting back on it? There are also going to be days that you were not fired up previously, you did not set yourself up for success, and you're having a hard time hitting your word count. If that's the case, I always find it a lot easier to write an outline instead of writing a blog post. Outlines are much easier to write because they follow a structure. You can cohese, you can stick your thoughts into the outline later. You're still writing, you're still getting words down, you're still working towards your time goal, but it's a lot easier. And it means that tomorrow, if you're still feeling kind of down and you start writing, you already have an outline that you can work from rather than having to come up with something completely from scratch. It also makes sense to reflect on your goal. I talked about this earlier. You might get to the point where you're writing 200 words a day and you're flying and you're like, well, maybe I can try to do 300 or 400. You might find the opposite. Just every so often, every month or every week, check in with yourself about your goal and say, yeah, this is working for me. Or you know what? No, I need to modify this either up or down to make sure that I can continue being consistent in a way that is meaningful for me. Finally, I'll share some tips that help me write consistently. I recommend you start with a small goal and then grow up. It's very demoralizing if you try to hit your goal and you miss it like the very first week you start. Start small, get into the habit of like meeting that goal, and then you can add. So for example, even if your goal is write 50 words a day, that's it. Even if you do that, even if you start doing that and do that for a month, you can start building that habit. And then the next month, you can start writing 100 words a day. As easy as that. Work with your schedule, not against your schedule. So for example, if you are working 2 jobs already, which I know is the reality for a lot of us, you might want to schedule your writing time for the weekends when you're more likely to have more energy. So you can say, okay, I'm not going to work during the week on my book because I know myself, I know I don't have the energy. Instead, I'm going to work on the weekends when I do have the time and energy to make that happen. Don't try to force yourself into somebody else's definition of consistency. Find a meaning of consistency that works for you and your writing habits. If you're really struggling, accept that maybe consistent writing isn't going to happen for you. This is a tough piece of advice for me to give and for some people to hear because on some level, if you're watching this video, you probably want to be told you can make it happen. All you have to do is really try really hard and then you can write consistently. The truth is that isn't true for everybody. Some people have families, some people have more than one jobs, some people have medical issues. There's a lot of different reasons that are totally valid that mean that right now you can't write consistently. If you still want to, I think it's important to know that writing will always be there for you. If you don't write consistently today, that's okay. Put a pin in that goal, come back to it in a year when you maybe have a little bit more mental energy or a little bit more time, or you're just more motivated to make it happen. It might not be in the cards for you right now, and that's okay. Writing's not going anywhere anytime soon. I want to end by saying that you should enjoy writing consistently. Writing consistently is one way to reach writing success. It's one way to finish writing a book. It's one way to grow a blogging career. It's not the only way. There are other people who write very inconsistently and have still managed to make it work. It's just not, it's the most successful style, I think, because it works with most people. But if you're trying it and you're like, oh my God, this is just another job to me. I no longer love writing. I hate it. I don't want to do it ever again, but I feel like I have to because I have to write consistently. If that's you, don't write consistently. Write when you want to, when you feel like it, and accept that you might not get as much done as you want to, but in return, you'll retain your love of writing, which I think is a pretty fair trade-off. That's my video on how to write consistently. I really think that it comes down to understanding what's blocking you and figuring out a way to get over that obstacle rather than like trying to scare up the motivation or be less lazy or anything like that. But that's it. By necessity, it's a very personal journey. So good luck on that journey. I hope this helped you write consistently. I hope it helped you understand why you haven't been able to write consistently until now. And yeah, write more consistently in the future. So thank you for watching this video. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.